Hey, today I wanted to start on my Switch stuff because there's been quite a few updates on some of the games that I play. Apparently, Dragon Mark for Death has a straight up like Bloody Palace now, and they're adding like new moves to the moveset and stuff. I got Crystal Crisis and Lapis X Labyrinth and a couple other games too. BB Tag I've been playing as well, but unfortunately, my friend needed my capture card for another day. I did go to the meetup yesterday, but he had to go stream a Smash tournament, so I should be getting it back maybe by the time most of you guys watch this. So I will be doing Switch stuff for the majority of this week, but today I thought I'd show something cool. They actually put out a 144 FPS update for Fight Rage. Apparently the developer is talking about how he got a 144 hertz monitor, kind of like what I have, and he decided to kind of dig into the code and fix it. Now, you're not going to be able to see the difference here because I am unable to record at 144 FPS. I don't really think it's worth the file size. I don't really think too many people are really actively playing this game at this time. There's been a lot of people begging him for the Switch port, and he's unable to do that for a variety of reasons. I guess he can't like self-publish, or Nintendo doesn't allow self-publishing on there, which I think is kind of weird because there's a lot of really bad like mobile ports on there that don't seem to have that problem. And this is obviously a very high-quality game. I think this would sell like crazy, especially if they had like a like 3-player co-op and everything, just like this version. So in any case, I'm just gonna go ahead and play a little mode here, a little bit of the 144 FPS. He also added a resume feature recently, which a lot of people were asking for. I'm very rusty at the game, so I don't know how well this is going to go. I forgot they armor through that. I think people can be really obnoxious with Switch port digging, but this is definitely a case where I would like to see it happen. Not really for my personal gain, more for him. He did make the developer did make a profit off this game. As far as I know, it sold really well. I don't know exactly what his budget was. Obviously, as a single solo developer, it's kind of easier to turn a profit than if you have to hire a bunch of artists and beta testers and stuff, but still pretty heartwarming that it did make money. It's really hard to break out on Steam right now because of how much just trash there is. Valve doesn't really do a good job of curation, and just the quality of games on there has gotten a lot worse. So it's good that this was able to get through, slip through the cracks. The only real problem I had with this game was just the fact that the campaign is very long, so it can be kind of not the type of game you'd want to play. If you're just trying to wind down or something, it is kind of a little bit of a time investment. It's not like it's like an RPG or anything, but for a beat 'em up, it is like a little bit on the longer side. But he's actually worked pretty well on fixing that problem. We have survival mode, score attack, and time attack mode now, so lots of ways to play this game without having to worry about how much time it takes or being burnt out. We also got some Streets of Rage 4 footage today, which is pretty cool. Now, I know the developers of that game and everything, but I don't have any inside information on it at all, so all I can really say is I'm just kind of echoing what everyone else is saying. Like, the art looks great, and everybody is worried about the music, whether Koshiro is going to be doing it or not, but a lot of people are talking about the lack of, like, running and dashing. I think that's what makes the game look really weird right now. Like, you see them do all these crazy combos and stuff, but they're still kind of stuck walking slowly. I'm not really sure how they can solve that. When the game was first announced, I actually talked to them. I don't know if it was on Discord or Twitter, but I told them that, like, maybe the hardcore, try-hard people would not like if they had dashing and stuff and the game was too crazy, but maybe they could make it, like, unlockable. I think that would be a good compromise. Obviously, I am an old fart, I did grow up with the games and everything, but I've always been, I'm open to new things in beat-em-ups, like games like this and stuff that have really robust combo systems and things like that. I feel like if it was just the same as it was 30 years ago, I probably would not be playing these, I do like what are considered to be mostly dead genres these days, but I still like some modernization. It's kind of hard to strike a good balance for sure. I can see why people get a little anxious. Modernization in this game is mostly just stuff that, the old beat-em-ups would have had if they were not arcade games. Like things like the suspend feature that he added, the extends actually being pretty manageable. 1cc in this game, at least on normal, is not that much of an undertaking as long as you pay attention to what you're doing. They give you a pretty good amount of extends, so as long as you're playing pretty well, you'll still have a lot of lives. Like, I lost 2 lives on that level, so I'm, I don't know, just not in the best state to be playing this right now, but I'm already 16k to my next extend, so it's not that big of a deal. Alright. This is the Wrath level. I don't want to embarrass myself with my loss of skill, so let's go ahead and do something else here. Do a couple survival attempts. The only thing I don't like about the survival mode is it would be a lot more fun if there was more room to fight. Some of the enemies are really difficult to deal with, like the bulls, and some of the other enemies as well, because there's just not room to really dodge their attacks. I have noticed it does seem to be a little bit easier to parry now that the game is running at 144 FPS. Some other people have mentioned that as well. It is a problem in some games, some games that have like really precision-based mechanics and stuff. They can be kind of harder to play if the game is locked at 30 FPS. Even worse if it's like uncapped or it's like 30 FPS and barely holding. So having this locked is actually pretty nice. You don't have to do anything to get it working at all. You basically just have to, make sure your monitor's at the right refresh rate and just load it up and it works fine. You can see how little room you have to move here, so when you start getting the really, crowd control heavy enemies, it can be really difficult to kind of get your bearings. Who knows, E3 is right around the corner. Maybe he got some kind of secret deal or something to get this ported on the Switch. I do think one issue he would face, though, is that people would understandably be complaining about online. It's something that happens with, like, any even remotely good indie game, is people complain about it and wonder why it's not in, and they don't realize that it's a massive undertaking to add online, you know, netcode to anything. And on PC, you know, there's the good response of you know, just being able to use Parsec. When people use Parsec to play, like, you know, shmups and stuff and like fighting games, those are some of the most intensive, you know, games to play online. They use those to play that with like no lag, so it wouldn't be a problem for something like this. But I don't really think he'd be able to get away with that complaint. I don't think people would really accept that on the Switch, so I think that's one of the problems with porting this game too. How do you convince the average Nintendo gamer that there's a good reason for it not having online? I think the whole local co-op thing of this game is great. I actually have played it with my friend Daniel a couple years ago, actually last year, and it was quite fun, but at the same time, I think I'd be pretty heartbroken if he did get it ported and, you know, people were just downvoting it because it doesn't have online. I think he used Game Maker Studio to make this game, so I don't know how that works with, you know, designing netcode and stuff. But that was a pretty clean combo. Wow, that punish. One other minor criticism I have with this game is the IPS. I feel like it kicks in too quickly. I feel like should be able to get a little bit more damage off a punish. Oh man, she was a magic pixel. Oh well. Like I said, I think he's done an exemplary job of fixing this game's biggest problem. Is that it's a very draining campaign. This game very much has the same problem that games like Metal Slug 3 have. Like, a lot of people consider that to be the best Metal Slug, but in recent years there's been people kind of turning their back on it because there's been people have actually realized it does have some pretty glaring flaws. You know, it has all those extra paths and stuff, but they don't really affect the game in any way. You know, you can kind of just get some cool little extra pieces of content, but you go through the game the same way, and you know, the end of the game is still like 45 minutes long, half an hour or more, depending on your skill level. I think even if you're like speed running it, it's still like over half the game in terms of the overall length. This game very much has the same problem. You have all the different paths you can take, and they actually are quite different. There's a lot of unique content in them, but you pretty much always have to go through the same 3 levels at the end, meaning the raft level, Death Island, and then the last level. And I think that's what makes the fatigue set in really quickly. Like, I played the shit out of this game, but I never really bothered to get the other endings because it's just more of the same, pretty much. You know, no matter how many paths you take, you still have a really grueling, just kind of marathon run at the end, and it definitely does get a little bit tiring. But now that he has all these other modes, you know, there's time attack, score attack, and survival, you can definitely turn this game on and just play it for a few minutes and not have to really commit to you know, a full run or anything. So if you have the game, like I said, and you have an arbitrary you know, frame rate monitor or hertz monitor, you just load it up and it should work fine. I believe the cap is 144 hertz because that's what he has. That is what the average person has anyway at this point, at least the average gamer. I think anything higher than that is kind of just you know, swinging your EPing around at this point, because a lot of our hardware can't really run most games at 144. There's also a lot of really bad optimization kind of preventing that from happening either. So if you do have a 144 hertz monitor, I definitely recommend it. The game does feel quite a bit smoother. There were never really any frame rate problems with this game in the first place, but in my experience, I do have a couple games that are 3D games that I can run at higher than 60 FPS on my rig, and I can't really notice much of a difference. 2D games, it's definitely much easier to notice a difference because there's more scrolling happening. Like Wizard of Legend and 20XX, for example, those games are like a night and day difference. Like when I go from the Switch version to PC from 60 to 144, and there's definitely is a lot of smoothness lost or gained in the transition, but that definitely applies here too. Anyway, that's it. Once I get my capture card back, which will hopefully be sometime today by the time you guys see this, I will be diving into some Switch stuff, going over some of the new acquisitions I've had since I went on vacation, and some new patch changes as well. Peace.